So we're running a little short of gasoline, so we stop here at a little side shop and get a couple of liters of gasoline. It's informal, but it works. And we can buy oil also if we needed it. There's a dog that dried bush, believe it or not, because it's very scratchy and itchy. The dog and the bush is kind of like a cactus in a sense. It's got a lot of grab, so he's getting some itch and scratching out of it. This is a brick factory. There's another one across the street. So that's what this little community specializes in. It's kind of like the Chinese mode. Little villages will be known for making a specific thing. Like, for example, the hooks on a woman's bra. That's all that little town makes is those. You can see we're getting into some hilly, mountainous area. Whether it'll cool down or not, I don't know. Whether it'll rain or not. The clouds above, I don't know. No idea what that round building is for. Okay, now we're entering the national park. Okay, this is where we are now. This is the route to where we're going to go. Okay, so we've gone from the flat, very, very dry and somewhat sparse vegetation to a little bit higher up in the mountain. Lots of vegetation. Heat seems to be about the same, but it's middle of the day. Pretty walk through this environment. It's pretty and fun to walk through, I think, as long as you keep your wits. The profusion of vines is almost eerie. You wonder which is the snake, which is the vine, which is the tree. Fun way to spend this part of the day. It's a good example of how plans change. Yesterday I lost all my notes, and after thinking about it and working on it last night and refinding another local booklet, figured it wasn't any that big a deal, but I thought, well, I'll pick up another guidebook and go to the museum and spend the day just kind of getting re-squared away. But once I got up, I thought, what a waste of time that'll be. So instead I went to the Rulos group of ruins that I wanted to see, but we were done by 11 o'clock, and my guide and I, who's not guide, but tuk-tuk driver, who's a smart fellow, young fellow, he and I had a good conversation about business, and looked at the time. It was only 11 o'clock, and I thought, why don't I try and do the trip I was going to do next week that would consume a half a day, and I'd allocated a day for it. So that's what we're now doing. About 35 kilometers north of Siem Reap by tuk-tuk, which in and of itself is a fun experience. It's interesting how hiking up steep hills in the hot temperature is more acceptable, more fun, the heat seems less onerous than if I'm just hiking along a street somewhere. Pretty setting, isn't it? With the beautiful trees and thick foliage and the rocks. Reminds me of Costa Rica. Here where the climbing gets really wicked, they put up some stairs, which makes that part infinitely easier, if not, in fact, possible. Climbing up to the top of Banteay, Spean, one of the two sites north of Siem Reap that I'm visiting. It's a shame that most tourists miss this ruined site because the walk to it alone is very pretty. Although a little bit challenging, but not much. Notice how it started up this tree which died, and then it worked its way somehow up some other trees, but way up into the top of that tree. I don't know whether this was a temple site or not, but this looks like it would have been a pathway across through here. You can see how it's been worked. And I don't know whether these little round knobs represent lingas or not. And here you can see it's a generalized pattern, but here pattern enclosed on a floral arrangement inside of boxes. And I imagine that's a linga over there, even though it's not very tall. And even under the water, we can see there a very huge one, probably 6 feet in diameter. There's some kind of iconic creature, a bird, I would gather from the feathering below. And notice more of the rocks have been decorated with the linga, as well as some just plain decorative motif. Interesting is to consider how they did those carvings if there was water in the stream all the time. Maybe there wasn't. Doesn't appear to be anything more inscribed. And the sign to my right says no access beyond, but the trail that continues on suggests otherwise. And many of the stones have fallen into this stream bed. But notice a very fine preserved detail there. And notice how that rock seems to have a graphic representation of that pedestal with the flange on it that had the water or fluid drainage arm off of it. Here we can see some larger than the norm linga designs. Just looking at all of this from the other side. Here's probably another Buddha image, although I don't know because those look like lingas to the right, so who knows for sure. And this bit of rock that has fallen in looks like it has a little hint of the linga design. Whether it was fully executed or not, can't tell. The park ranger has assured me that this is a different route back that I can take, so I will. The ranger type lady here has guided me down here to show me additional carvings. These probably the Buddha here. Notice there are at least 2 arms on each side. And 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it looks like the 7 heads of the cobra. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then the face right here we have. They're a fairly good sized linga, and it probably stood higher than that. It's been knocked down a bit, perhaps by Buddhists afterward, Buddhists. But here's some Buddhist design here. This one pretty lasting. See it quite well. Yeah. Very good. Here we have even more of the little lingas, but then there a larger presentation again that has that symbology of the pedestal for the linga that you find in the temples, along with that water drainage, whatever that is for. So, considerable amount of work went on in these places. And as we walk along here, the riverbed is carpeted, for lack of a better term, with these linga symbols all carved into the stone. It's from this that it gets its name, 1,000 Lingas, rivers of 1,000 Lingas. Even more embedded here as we move along the river. And here above this carpet of linga here is this cow embedded, engraved into the stone. And notice how the artist may well have anticipated that it was protected from above by this stone. If so, that's some considerable amount of good thinking. And here's another reclining character here. Plus, right beneath us is again one of those lingas with the spouts. And here, a display, probably that little niche up there had been chopped out. It might have had linga in there and it was chopped out by Buddhists. We get some very fine detail carved in the rock. Need a little more. Here, of course, is a cave-like structure in the rocks, and a Buddha little monument or altar in here. It, again, was probably used for that purpose as well as a place to live for a while. So very pretty falls that probably was used by the people who carved the lingas into the stone riverbed, because this would have been a lovely place to camp out and to stay. Along the trail are small evidences of work that's been done. Whether that held a monument or not, I don't know. Same thing right here. Here what almost looks like the beginnings of the carving of the seven-headed snake. Piles of wood that are burned also, probably contributing to deforestation to some degree. This is the relatively new and modern highway, and now we'll kick off towards the one that goes down to Angkor Wat, back to Siem Reap, and it's less quality, but not so bad here, but it'll get a little bit worse a little bit further on, but better. This site looks like it's well done. That's the first one I've seen in all of the sites so far. So you can see where we are, where the red dot is. So then we'll walk in and probably, and then to the left into the temple itself. The original Sanskrit name is the city of Shiva. It was a place of worship, but also a pilgrimage site with the duty to provide hospitality. It's a celestial residence of the gods modeled on Indian ideas. It's hierarchically organized. The central complex of the monument must have been reserved to the elite, whereas the long walkway and its surrounding buildings to the east of the main complex were open to everyone. There was an original drainage system, and that's been restored. These apparently are drainage shafts. Somehow they've done some restoration of this. This site is very well developed. This is a nice shaded area. Bathrooms over there, probably quite modern. Very well organized shop. And I don't know what those buildings over there are. I didn't stop to look. Whether this is rice or not, I don't know. This mound, it's not known whether it's natural or was man-made, but there have been some ceramic shards found, and so it's being preserved and protected as is for future research, but it was inside of this pond. Okay, this is the typical initial building that you find at the long entrance to any temple. This is rather novel because you normally don't find that much left, but also notice the notches for holding either stone or timber for the rest of that building entry, and some very fine detail there. This is probably a replica of the entry side. And now you can see that this access to the temple included this colonnade to the left, matched over on the right, like cloisters, if you will. And then this raised causeway with these monoliths, I guess you'd call them. They don't seem to have anything on them in the way of decorating. Now the top of the columns have some pretty nice detail. I assume that the rest of the column was probably stuccoed and painted. Whether it was painted with any kind of pictures or not, like murals, I don't know. I wonder if, like the the Greek columns and these columns, whether column tops and their embellishment is an innate, spontaneous idea of humanity. But I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking that these must be lingas, representations of. Because they don't seem to have any kind of detail on them. Here, halfway to the temple down the causeway, same idea we've seen at Angkor Wat and elsewhere, were two little buildings. Presumably they were sub-temples for worship. Then down here we're about to enter a walled area, and inside that is the main temple. Outside here is another wall, and we can see that this building, as the one to my left, continued on a radius perpendicular to the causeway. There must have been some particular reason for these side buildings. Now, this portion that we're looking at is a separate building. I gave the wrong impression a moment ago, because here's the wall that separates it from the causeway area. And here's some pretty detail. You wonder what dictates whether a temple is mainly preserved or not. I mean, what is it about the elements or the materials used, etc., etc.? And I'm guessing that these elements that are reassembled here will eventually return to their little temple positions up on top of that doorway. And consistent with this large temple model, although this is not a large temple, is this moat and the raised terrace that represents continents, and of course the towers that represent the mountains. But how pretty this would be. What a pretty concept for an elegant home. You notice here was a pedestal where a monument would have stood. And I'd be willing to bet that there were probably nagas on either side here as I walk along that reflected that rainbow bridge by which human beings could access the gods, which of course the temples reflect. I'll just walk through this to try to simulate the effect that the original people would have had in coming into here. Now, just how far the average person could continue is a good question. But we'll consider I was more than average. Notice here on either side are linga symbols. Lingas with the linga symbol on top of the flower, but notice it's similar to the format we saw at the river. Pedestal that would have held two, and then off to the side another pedestal, and a matching one to its far right behind me now. Here it looks like there were two such monuments. Curiously, they went to the effort of cutting that hole through their Y. Beautiful details have been maintained, preserved somehow, all the way through here.
alles in voll geboten. Die Rahmenblumen, Blätter, Lotusblumen und ganz schöne Rahmen. Das ganz tolle.
Here probably a bull.
Und die
And here another long, narrow building, which we've seen before at other sites today. What a pretty building this must have been if all of these details were painted somehow. And if there were murals or whatever in the center of those panels. Notice that same fake door design. There, some Buddha lookalikes or something akin to that. Now this is small in height. The main tower there towering maybe a couple of feet higher than the two on either side. But I suspect with this phenomenal detail that it was a very beautiful temple. Monkeys, or monkey men. Look at the detail back on that wall panel. Really is some splendid detail. Can you hear the bugs and their incredible orchestra? It would be interesting if I had another couple of decades in my life extra to learn about what all this detail meant. And that of the Egyptians and the Mayans, etc., ad nauseam. I think the detail of these window, and I'll call it molding, is pretty. This is probably part of that original draining system that they restored. You wonder if the perimeter wall was planned and installed before they imagined putting in this building. I assume that the surface was probably covered with plaster, perhaps painted. And again, some of the beautiful over the lintel decorations warehoused here until they can restore the buildings. There you see how they're used. So there were several for each building. So now we're looking at the outer wall. Notice how those capstones were made with that knob on the top. The moat, the inner wall. Small, but I'll bet you it was very beautiful in this setting. Some local folk gathering some of the produce that's naturally on the trees. Here's the view looking back from the temple to the way we came in. We would have seen a series of buildings if we could see over the wall. And it seems evident that all of this interior area was paved with stone, reflecting continental shelf, if you will, or continents. How tall and stately these trees are. It's okay. Arigato. Tell me there isn't risk here. Whether these growing, darkening clouds will give us rain or not is anybody's guess. But actually it creates a nice cooler wind, and that's a good thing. This is the Cambodian Landmine Museum and Relief Center. Cambodia apparently was the most heavily mined country during the Vietnam War. And afterward, I guess. These are examples, apparently, of mines. Those ones look like hand grenades there. Apparently they're still produced by 13 countries in the world, 9 of which are in Asia, but one of them happens to be the United States, and the other, I forget, there's another one in the Central or South America. It is curious to me why America continues to create these. Here the discovery of landmines by those who, and removal of them. It's interesting that the Ottawa Treaty to ban landmines has not been signed by China, Russia, or the United States. Apparently there's a clause in there that allows countries to retain landmines for use in training or development of countermeasures. This fellow who's responsible for clearing mines indicates that he has probably cleared over 50,000 mines in his life. He's now with the Army, but he still continues to do that and to train people. This, I think, is called the Claymore. I don't know what they cook inside these ovens. It may be some kind of soup. But this is the first place I've seen these little ovens like this, so it's a pretty popular pastime for this little village. Here we're going to enter into this area here of butterflies. This is just an outside area. Thing to know is that the butterflies, when they create more butterflies, then they sell them to other countries.
Yes.
And I think some of the things that they use butterflies for is like bees to pollinate crops and so forth.
It's a lamb butterfly. It's named lamb. Oh, they are made.
Two that are mating. Are they going to die when we hold on to them?
Allow them to fly. Allow them to fly. Release them. Okay.
Okay.
So this. Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. Try it.
And
Do
they
like that 3 hours.
really?
3 hours. Then with the salties and this bananas, pineapple, orange, papaya,
Watermelon.
yeah.
And then this is a feeder here. And these holes, the butterfly has a proboscis, so it can stick its proboscis down in there.
Right. Yes. And then it's that is the
Great
male.
moment.
Yeah. This is the female here. Female.
What a beautiful butterfly that is.
Here they camouflage.
They
can camouflage seasonal.
Oh, okay. The lower is the female and the upper is the male.
Leopard lacewing butterfly. Lantana flower is good to the poor farmer. If they don't have the money, they can. If they get hurt in the eye, they cannot open many days. They can take the leaf and the water up from the leaf, they put in the ice and then they get better.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
So that one they like the lantana flowers.
Beautiful.
All of this we collect from the farmers and we use the glue to stick it on.
Huh.
In the nature they can produce the seed pad underneath the twig and in the same color to the wood. Yeah. And sometimes they can camouflage. They hide from the predator. As you see this one,
Oh,
it's
yes.
similar, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very interesting.
Now it's very small.
And so those bees are on the outside.
Sorry. So one butterfly can lay the egg 100 to 300 egg.
And those are individual eggs, eh?
Yeah, make sure.
Will they hatch there?
They hatch inside here.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they do that. They do. You know, after 3 days it becomes a larva here. You can look at larvas.
And do you just keep them in there and
just keep inside and then we will
provide
put
them-
the leaves.
give them some food?
Yeah, give the food twice a day, in the morning and evening.
And then the next stage they go to is the pupae stage?
They can
Pupa
prepare steak, about 10 days and 14
Right.
days and then prepare to be cheaper.
stage? And then you put them in that other...
Right.
Ah, I see.
Put in there. The ants, because the ant like eating
This keeps the ant... Was that the oil?
the motorbike wax.
Okay. There you see some of the pupae.
Yeah,
Pupa.
we try to the people.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
And this is we translate in Khmer, here translate in Latin. The butterfly have several names: common name, scientific name, Latin name, and genus name. So, what I remember only common name here. So you will see around here. Yeah, the day they come today, they get 14. The farmer sign will stop sign.
A stick insect, if you can see it. Now, I'm not going to touch it, but I'm going to point to it. So right there, that thing hanging down is actually an insect. Well, that's cool. I don't think I've ever seen one. Apparently mating, although that's the female. It's only in a place like this that you're going to get the luxury of videotaping them like this. This is for some reason a group of quails or something like that. Apparently it takes them 3 hours to mate. Huh. How long it'll take man to get that gene isolated. So this is a butterfly farm. There are only about 3 or 4 species in there that I saw. Don't know why. Charcoal. Here's another temple compound I'm not going to go to. This is another part of the huge moat around Angkor Wat.
This is Srei.
Hmm?
It's a big swimming pool.
Really?
Yeah, it's a man-made
Ah. Is it
by the King Soya Varman VII. It keep water for
to flew out to rice field.
Oh, rice fields,
Outside,
okay.
yeah.
Ah, okay, so this is not Angkor Wat. Okay.
Inside, in
Yeah.
the middle of the school,
Yeah?
have the one shrine for the king make meditation
Oh, yeah.
for 3 months
Ah.
in
Interesting.
the rain season
Oh, yeah.
inside.
Okay,
Alright,
good.
nothing to see because of the building by